Thank you so much, Patricia. I'm so glad to be here today, and thank you all for joining me. Um, as Patricia said, we will be talking today about how to improve your grocery management skills to reduce food waste. And okay. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. I am a Family Consumer Sciences Extension Agent with the University of Florida with IFAS, and I am in Leon County, which is Tallahassee. And in Tallahassee, I provide community nutrition programs focused on food and nutrition education, as well as health and wellness, chronic disease prevention, and food safety education. And today I want to talk about food waste and how we personally can take steps to help reduce it. So what exactly is food waste? Well, the Food and Agriculture Organization, or the FAO, defines food waste as the edible food that is fit for human consumption that ends up being thrown out for different various reasons. Well, there's a lot of reasons why this may happen. There are different steps in the food system all along the way where food waste can occur. The food system consists of many steps, from growing food to when it reaches the consumer, or you're the consumer, from farms to factories to transportation, then to retail stores, and then into your home. And this is the food system. The food waste occurs, like I said, at every step along the way. So who do you think is the biggest contributor to food waste from these groups? We have farmers, factories, transportation, retail stores, or consumers. Who would you think would be the biggest contributor? Well, if you answered homes or consumers or you, then yes, you're right. Because it turns out that we, the consumers, are responsible for 43% of the total food being wasted and filling up our landfills. And so really, there is something that needs to be done about this. That is a lot. Now, as the consumer, ideally, we would consume all that we buy, and the food waste would not be an issue. But unfortunately, this is not the case. Any excess food or spoiled food is disposed of in the trash, and the garbage truck comes by and picks up the trash, taking all the waste that they've gathered to the landfill. And to most of us, this becomes out of sight and then out of mind. Food waste is a growing problem in our country. Wasted food affects our economy because food production consumes a lot of valuable natural resources, such as our water and our land, and just ends up going to waste. Food waste has a negative impact on our environment. When food waste builds up in landfills, it is held for a very long time, and it releases harmful gases into the air, such as methane and carbon dioxide. In addition, food waste has a big impact on our society. There are many American families and individuals that continue to go hungry while all edible food piles up in landfills. Methane, as I mentioned, is much more harmful than carbon dioxide, and it is responsible for trapping heat in the atmosphere. The amount of greenhouse gases emitted from food waste alone competes with the amount of greenhouse gases emitted from China and the US. So not only does food waste contribute to greenhouse gases and competes with countries for the most greenhouse gas emissions affecting climate change, but it also wastes important environmental resources. So as we can see, food waste is a very complex issue that leads to wasted resources, which also wastes money and poses harm to the environment. Harming the environment will affect future generations. And although future generations are certainly important, so are the people today who are experiencing food insecurity. And it is something that we can help by preventing and reducing food waste. What can we do as the consumer to make an impact in this food waste problem? Well, food waste reduction begins with smart meal planning. And as a registered dietitian, I'll tell you, smart meal planning has a lot of great benefits, not just food waste reduction. So I'm going to talk about some of those as well. Now, many of us don't prepare meals and eat at home as often as maybe we would like to, or we rely too much on the convenience of eating out, drive-through, and DoorDash. There are many benefits to planning and preparing our own meals at home, including saving money, healthier eating, wasting less food, less stress, saving time, and adding variety. Eating at home can help you save money and eat healthier food, as I said. Making a list before going to the store will also help you save time. If you buy only what you expect to use, you'll be more likely to keep the food fresh and safe and use it in a timely manner. Make the grocery list based on the number of meals you plan to eat at home and know your budget. Plan weekly meals using grocery store flyers. This is an excellent thing to do. I know on Thursdays, Publix puts out their grocery store flyer for the week, and I often will use that to plan what we're going to have for the upcoming week for meals. You also want to make sure that you make your grocery list accessible. There are grocery store mobile apps that you can use, or an AnyList on your phone that you can share with your family. These are great tools so that you will always have your grocery list with you. I know myself, I have many times written out the grocery list and left the darn thing sitting on the countertop at home. And then, of course, I always forget the things that were on the list, and then I have to go back and then I spend more money. So make sure that your list is accessible. Always look to what you already have on hand. First, you want to shop in your pantry, your fridge, and your freezers. We all have stuff in there that we bought previously, buy one, get one free, or maybe it got shoved to the back and we forgot it was there. Always shop your pantry, fridge, and freezers first. We also want to stretch more expensive items by making mixed dishes like casseroles, and buy in bulk, but only if it's a good price and it won't get wasted. I know a lot of people shop at Costco and places like that, and you can save a lot of money there, but if you're not using what you're buying, it really is not the good deal you thought it was. We also want to be sure to check the unit price, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on. Store brands or buy one, get one free things can also save you lots of money. Some of us may still be flipping coupons, which is great if you do that. But again, stay away from the deals that force you to purchase more than what you need or to purchase things that you won't use. Okay, so comparing prices. While shopping, be sure to look for that unit price for the best comparison. It should be on the front of the shelf as part of the pricing label. And this gives the cost per ounce or unit of food. If it isn't on there, you can easily figure it out by using the calculator on your phone. Just simply divide the total cost by the number of ounces in the product. You can use this information to decide which size or item is the best deal. And then some prep tips. Here are a few simple prep tips for meals. When you arrive home from the grocery store, go ahead and wash, chop, and store fresh food in clear storage containers that make snacking and prep work easier later on. So after you wash anything, be sure to dry it with a clean cloth or paper towel before refrigerating it again. And this will help reduce the moisture and the risk for early mold. Freeze food you know you will not be eating in time, like bread, sliced fruit, veggies, or meat. And then everything we've discussed so far are ways that we consumers, these are ways that we can prevent food waste at home. I know personally, if I buy strawberries or blueberries or grapes, if mom, don't cut them up or wash them and cut them up and get them ready to go, they will sit there forever. Nobody else wants to do it, and they end up getting thrown away. So I really try and make it a point to attend to that as soon as I get home from the store, so that I know that those things are going to get eaten by my family. So be your own master of smart meals. You want to plan first, always plan. Some meal items can be prepared in advance. And if you have days like on the weekend where you can pre-cook ahead of time, that is a fabulous thing to do. You can double or triple up on recipes and then freeze those meals in either large containers, like if you have soups and casseroles, or divide them into individual portions that you can take to work and then freeze them. You want to try a few meals that feature legumes like black or kidney beans or black-eyed peas, or try notebook meals like salads. And incorporate leftovers into a meal later in the week. This is an excellent way to be sure to use your leftovers, and it'll save time. You don't have to make another meal later in the week. And I love creating master lists. The master list of main dishes and sides. Come up with this with your family, things that you and your family like, and just continue to use those lists to create your grocery plan and your grocery store shopping list. This master list is easy to create healthy and balanced meals. You want to start with a plan that includes the things that you see here on my plate. And if you're not familiar with my plate, it replaced my pyramid several years ago. It's much more user-friendly. But you want to start with a plan that includes protein, vegetables, starch, fruit, and dairy. And the final meals should each include one main dish, and then 1 to 2 vegetables, a starch, and a fruit. And it's good to let the kids help plan meals for the week as well. That way they are more likely to eat what you made. And a part of preventing food waste at home is to consider old ingredients and leftovers you need to consume. This will also save time by decreasing the time it takes to cook. Remember, as I said before, to shop in your fridge and pantry first, and to make an entire meal at home or supplement what you buy at the store for meals. Get creative with the things that you have and create something new. And love your leftovers. Not everybody loves leftovers, but it's a good idea to really think about what you're making and plan for leftovers, and even having a designated night once a week that's leftover night. And this will reduce the amount of food being tossed in the trash. Some shopping tips to save time, money, and waste include never shopping hungry or in a hurry. Stick to your grocery list and avoid wandering around the store. Use coupons and shop discounts. Buy store brands if they're better priced. Do the math and compare those unit prices for the best deal. Check expiration dates. This is really important. Grocery stores, and you should do this too at home, is they use a rotation method called FIFO, which is first in, first out. And they're pulling the oldest items to the front and putting the freshest items in the back. So for you, the consumer, if you want to keep something longer, you're going to reach to the back and pick up the thing that has the longest expiration date on it. Don't grab the milk that's right in the front. That might have an expiration date that's tomorrow. You reach to the back, you might get something that's 10 days from now. Also, if you're struggling with frozen, fresh, or canned produce, just remember these are all equally healthy choices, and frozen and canned items are going to last much longer. Buy fresh produce when it's in season. It's going to be much better quality, and it's going to be a better price. And remember that convenience comes with a price. Those pre-cut and individually packaged items are often more expensive. So DIY, shop, and portion your own. Save yourself some money. And always, again, shop the weekly sales flyer. You can save a lot of money doing that. This is a good example, and I will again provide this in the resources at the end that will be sent out to you. But this is a grocery game plan, a weekly calendar, just to get you started on figuring out, what would be good things to plan for meals during the week. And it's laid out on a weekly calendar with the different meals, including snacks. All right, so let's shift over a little bit to food wasting. And one of the biggest issues when it comes to wasted food is people not knowing if your food may be expired, right? There's dates on stuff. We don't know what they mean. Is it expired? Is it not expired? Sometimes there's codes we don't understand. So let's talk a little bit about product dating and what each thing means. So why do we have food expiration dates? We're going to look at food safety versus food quality. Now, food safety, according to the FAO, refers to all hazards, whether chronic or acute, that may make food harmful to the health of the consumer. So when thinking of food safety, it's important to think of pathogenic bacteria or bacteria that can make us sick. The food quality is different. It is described as all other characteristics that influence a product's value to the customer. This includes spoilage, contamination with filth, discoloration, or off odors, and any attributes that will affect the origin, color, flavor, texture, and processing method of the food. Overall, though, when considering food quality, think about that appearance, the aroma, temperature, texture, and taste. These are two types of product dating. There's open dating and closed dating. Open dating is a calendar date given to a food product by the manufacturer or retailer. The calendar date gives consumers information on the estimated time for which the product will have the best quality, and also to help the grocery store decide how long to display the product for sale. Open dating is on foods, most foods including meat, poultry, egg, and dairy products. Closed dating is a code on food products given by manufacturers. It is made up of letters and numbers in order to identify the date and time of production. It is typically on shelf-stable products like canned foods or boxed food products. And the manufacturers determine food quality dates, like open dating, based on several factors. And these include the length of time and temperature that food is kept at during distribution and on store shelves for sale. They also determine quality based on the characteristics of the food and the type of packaging used for the food. So how does date labeling impact food waste? So that confusion over the meaning of dates applied to food products can result in the consumers discarding wholesome food. In an effort to reduce food waste, it is important that consumers understand the dates applied to food are for quality and not food safety. Food products are generally safe to consume past the date on the label, and regardless of the date, consumers should evaluate the quality of the food product before consuming it. Let's look at best if used by, sell by, and used by date labeling. So beginning with the best if used by / before, this indicates when a product will be the best flavor or quality. It's not a safety date. Some common food products that have best by dates are shelf-stable products that include rice, canned goods, bread, dried beans and lentils, and spices or seasonings. Then we have the sell-by date. This tells the store how long to display the product for sale. This is used for inventory management. It is not a safety date. Sell-by is usually put on perishables or refrigerated items like dairy, eggs, and deli meats. Then we have the use-by date. This is the last date recommended for the use of the product while at peak quality. Again, this is not a safety date, with only one exception, which is infant formula. The quality of perishable food may decline after that food label date passes. However, food products should still be safe to consume if they're stored properly. So how do you tell if you should eat food? Most foods not showing evidence of spoilage should be appropriate to be sold, bought, donated, and consumed past the best if used by date. If food is handled properly, then it is generally safe until spoilage is evident, with the exception again of infant formula. Foods with spoilage will give off an unpleasant odor, flavor, or texture, which is caused by naturally occurring spoilage bacteria. If a food has developed these characteristics, it should not be eaten. Mold is an example of food spoilage, and it should be noted, however, that a change in the color of meat or poultry is not an indicator of spoilage. When talking about canned goods will actually last about 2 to 3 years after the date indicated on the code. If the can, though, has any dents, if it's bulging or rusty, or if you open it and the contents are cloudy, moldy, or smelly, of course, there's a problem there, and we need to discard the canned product regardless of the code date. All right, so how do we properly store food for safety and quality? Let's take a look at that. So above all else, food safety is first. We don't want anybody to get sick for any reason. You know, foodborne illness affects about 1 in 6 Americans every year, and it is a nasty thing to have if you've ever had it. So food safety is always first. When chilling stored foods to proper temperatures, it's one of the best ways to slow the growth of dangerous bacteria or pathogenic bacteria. A refrigerator thermometer can make a big difference. At room temperature, just for example, the number of bacteria that cause foodborne sickness can actually double every 20 minutes. So chilling food to proper temperatures is one of the best ways to slow the growth of these bacteria. To make sure that your refrigerator is doing its job, it's important to keep its temperature at 40 degrees or below. I usually keep mine at about 37 degrees. And the freezer should be at 0 degrees Fahrenheit. Since few refrigerator controls show actual temperatures, using an inexpensive appliance thermometer that goes inside your refrigerator will allow you to monitor the temperature and adjust as necessary. And also be sure to avoid overpacking the refrigerators and freezers. Cold air must circulate around refrigerated foods to keep them properly chilled. You want to wipe up any spills immediately. In addition to helping reduce the growth of Listeria bacteria, which is one of the ones that can grow in refrigerated temperatures, which makes it very, very scary. We want to get rid of spills, especially drips from thawing meats, which will help prevent cross-contamination, where bacteria from one food can spread to another. Keep all your foods covered up well and store refrigerated foods in covered containers or sealed storage bags, and check leftovers daily for spoilage. The expiration dates, we want to make sure we check those on foods, and if you're not sure, or if the date or if the food looks questionable, the simple rule is, when in doubt, throw it out. And clean the fridge out frequently. And this is not a chore anybody in my house likes to do, so it falls on me to do it. But it's a good thing to do that on a regular basis as part of your cleaning routine, because sometimes things get shoved to the back if we're not labeling things or keeping track of that. We honestly have no idea how long it's been in there. So you want to make sure you clean the fridge out on a regular basis. And whether you're dealing with leftovers or just purchased food items, it's important to get foods that need refrigeration into the fridge quickly. Leaving perishable foods out for 2 hours or more allows that bacteria to multiply rapidly and could put you at serious risk for getting a foodborne illness. When you get home from the grocery store, put your refrigerated items away as quickly as possible, and never allow raw meat, poultry, or seafood, eggs, or produce that requires refrigeration to sit at room temperature. Definitely not more than 2 hours. The limit is actually 1 hour if the air temperature is above 90 degrees. And so, hopefully your house is not 90 degrees, but keep in mind that your car is probably even hotter than the typical room temperature. And so it's important not to ever leave your groceries in the car longer than absolutely necessary, and not more than 1 hour on a hot day. Leftovers need to be refrigerated or frozen within 2 hours as well. And to keep hot food, to help hot food cool faster, like when you're cooking, you want to divide those leftovers into smaller containers before putting them in the refrigerator. Get them cooled off as best you can before they go in the refrigerator, because it can actually, you put hot food in there, it can heat up the entire contents of your refrigerator and put all of your food at risk. So you want to cool things off as quickly as you can and then put them in the refrigerator. Again, the 2 hour rule applies to carry home foods. If you have leftovers from takeout or restaurant meals that need to go into the refrigerator, you want to do that within 2 hours. And if you don't think you're going to make it home, within those 2 hours after eating out, then don't take the food with you. Always keep food in the refrigerator while it's marinating. Bacteria can multiply rapidly in foods left out at room temperature. So remember this tip to marinate safely. Never reuse marinating liquid as a sauce unless you bring it to a rapid boil first, because you were marinating raw food in it to begin with. Thawing is an issue that we need to consider because bacteria can multiply so rapidly in the unrefrigerated food. It's simply unsafe to ever let food thaw at room temperature. If left unrefrigerated, some organisms can actually create toxins that will survive the cooking process. And even in the food, if it's cooked to temperatures that kill the bacteria themselves, these toxins can survive and then can make you very sick. When you thaw food, there's only 3 ways to do it safely. You can either do it in the refrigerator, which takes quite a long time. You can do it in cold water, or you can do it in the microwave. If you thaw food in cold water, you want to change the water at least every half hour to make sure it stays cold. And that means not warmer than 70 degrees. And thawed foods, if you're doing it in the microwave, it should be part of the cooking process. And they should be cooked immediately after thawing and not refrigerated. So it's important to keep your refrigerator clean and organized to reduce food spoilage and food safety risks. This is a photo, a picture, an infographic of a refrigerator that's well laid out. We want to keep those thermometers. I always have 2, so keep one in the front and one in the back. You know, we keep the door open sometimes when we're putting groceries away, or you know, your son comes in or your husband and they stand there not knowing what they're going to eat. And all the while the cold air is leaving the refrigerator. So it's good to have one in the front and one in the back so that we know that we have a good air temperature. That air temperature should be maintained at least 40 degrees Fahrenheit or less. Again, and for freezers, you want to set it to 0 degrees Fahrenheit. Always store raw meats on a wrapped plate or pan so that we don't have any leaking or dripping going on that can cross-contaminate other foods. When storing leftovers, don't keep them for more than 3 or 4 days. There is a limit to leftovers. And again, 3 to 4 days is your top limit. Don't overpack the fridge and use that first in, first out rotation method, not only in your refrigerator, but also in your pantry and using it with other things that you purchase as well. Now, here are some common foods to make sure are being stored properly. Eggs, like egg chicken or tuna salad, should be stored in the fridge for not more than 4 days. Fresh in-shell eggs should be kept for, they can be kept up to 3 to 5 weeks. Opened luncheon meat should be stored for up to 3 to 5 days, or you can freeze it for 1 to 2 months. Fresh steak should be stored in the fridge for up to 3 to 5 days and can be frozen for 4 to 12 months. And cooked meat leftovers like meat stews or soups should be stored in the fridge for 3 to 4 days. These are only a few examples. There are more food storage recommendations that you can find by visiting. If you go to foodsafety.gov, it is a wonderful website with all of this great information on it. You can also download the Food Keeper app onto your iPhone or Android device. And this is a fabulous resource that will give you all of this great information about how to store food, how long you can keep it for. And again, I'll provide these resources at the very end of the webinar today. When it comes to produce storage, fresh fruits and veggies often get thrown out rapidly because it's easy to buy them in excess and then forget about them. Some helpful tips to maximize freshness of fruits and veggies include storing them separate from other fruits and vegetables. Some fruits give off natural gases while ripening and can contribute to faster spoilage of other nearby produce. So it's real important to keep them separate if possible. Also, it's important to wait to wash your berries specifically until you're ready to eat them. This helps will prevent that mold from happening too quickly. And preserve produce even longer by freezing. You can also do some canning if you're into that. Canning fruits and veggies will keep them shelf stable for quite a long time. So not all produce actually needs to be refrigerated, right? So for example, peaches, watermelon, avocados, tomatoes, potatoes, and onions, they need to be kept at room temperature. Potatoes, onions, winter squash, and garlic need to be kept in a cool, dark, dry place for optimum food safety and quality. And don't forget to separate them. Apples, plums, cabbage, broccoli, and cucumber all need to be refrigerated. So this is a representation of the food recovery hierarchy put out by the EPA. So to address food waste, they have created this hierarchy to help us with prevention, rescue, recycling, and repurposing. The best way to reduce food waste is to first prioritize preventing food waste in the first place. Then recovery or rescue food for those who are facing food insecurity. And finally, recycle and repurpose food waste so that less of it ends up in the landfills. So let's talk about the recycling and repurposing. Sometimes there is food waste that we are unable to donate to those in need, but it is still usable in other ways. Remember, we want to avoid keeping trash out of our landfills. So let's talk about what we can do with food that cannot be donated. Recycling food into compost. Maybe some of you are already doing some composting. Maybe you've thought about doing composting, extension. We've got a lot of composting programs in our different counties. So if you're interested in that, you should check it out. If you're not sure what it is, composting is actually a natural process that turns organic material, such as food scraps, grass trimmings, coffee grounds, and even cardboard into dark, nutrient-rich soil. Composting is an environmentally friendly way to reduce solid waste, and there are many benefits to creating compost and using it. Adding compost to your garden and houseplants can help prevent some plant diseases, keep the pests away, and add additional nutrients to your soil. It also reduces the need to purchase commercial fertilizers, limits the amount of waste material that ends up in landfills, and reduces your carbon footprint. In 2017, actually, Americans recycled almost 27 million tons of food through composting. And that's a lot of food waste that isn't ending up in our landfills. One of the best ways to reduce food waste is also to utilize those leftover ingredients. Whether those ingredients are food scraps from prepping vegetables or fruits, or foods that we may have forgotten about in our pantry or refrigerator. There are many different recipes that use food waste to create delicious food. First, make sure the food is safe to eat, and then try to create something new out of what you already have left over, instead of throwing away edible food and then going to the store to buy more ingredients. For example, you can make banana bread from those over-ripened bananas sitting on your countertop. When bananas start to get soft, brown, and spotty, we typically don't want to eat them as they are. But spotty, soft bananas are the key ingredient to delicious homemade banana bread. So next time your bananas get brown and spotty, try turning them into a new recipe instead of just throwing them in the trash. You can then compost and peel the banana. You can compost the peel of the banana if you have started that compost pile. Other ideas for repurposing food scraps into recipes include creating homemade vegetable stock from vegetable scraps, or turning stale bread into croutons for your salad, or French toast for a family breakfast. Another great way to repurpose food scraps is to create your own windowsill garden. Maybe some of you have seen this before. I think it is the coolest thing. I actually have a celery root base in my refrigerator that I plan to do this with as we speak. So instead of throwing away or composting your fruit and vegetable food waste, you can actually regrow those scraps into houseplants or additions to your garden right in your windowsill. Kitchen scrap gardening is a creative, resourceful way to keep food waste out of the landfill, especially if you don't have a compost pile. It can be very rewarding to grow your own food, and so why not do it right there in your kitchen? All you need is a shallow bowl of water and whatever leftover kitchen scraps you'd like to grow, try and regrow. So we'll use the celery as an example. Simply place the celery stalk into the bowl filled with 1 inch of water. Change the water every other day, and roots and new leaf growth should appear within a few days. After 2 to 3 weeks, you can transfer the sprouted stalk to a plant pot with potting soil or right straight into your garden. Soon you'll have a new celery stalk that you can harvest and then regrow again and again. That sounds like so much fun. Some fruits and vegetables and herbs you may have to regrow a little bit differently. Some of these you may have to put the seeds or stalk of the food scrap directly into the soil, or with avocados, you actually suspend the seed above water. These are a little more difficult to do, but certainly not impossible. And I do have a resource at the, again, at the end of the presentation that will lead you to a website with some great ideas on how you can regrow scraps. So food rescue and recycling, this is the next part. Sometimes excess food waste is unavoidable, and when this is the case, you can use food rescue, recycling, and repurposing strategies to further reduce food waste. Food rescue is the practice of collecting edible food that would have otherwise gone to waste from restaurants, grocers, and other food establishments, and then distributing it to a local hunger relief agency. You can take part in food waste yourself, in food waste rescue. At home, we can collect our unspoiled, nutritious food and donate it to our community members who are facing food insecurity. By donating food, food isn't ending up in our landfills, but it's feeding people, saving money, and conserving our nation's natural resources. By rescuing nutritious food you donate, you'll be impacting the current and future health of those who are facing hunger and food insecurity. So the USDA defines food insecurity as a lack of consistent access to enough food for an active, healthy lifestyle. Food insecurity is a complex problem, and it's not just affected by a person's income. Families who face food insecurity often are affected by overlapping issues such as affordable housing, low wages, high medical costs, and chronic or acute health issues. And so food insecurity can often mean having to make the choice between paying a medical bill or buying groceries for the week. While those who are food insecure sometimes feel acute symptoms like hunger, food insecurity can have a lifelong impact on the family's future health and well-being. So how can you help? Anyone can donate food. Large chain manufacturers, supermarkets, wholesalers, farmers, restaurants, and consumers. What are we donating? Non-perishable food items, monetary donations, and even your time spent volunteering is in great need. And where do we do this? We go to food banks, food pantries, soup kitchens. We all have local food banks in our communities and food pantries. We can find them oftentimes at schools and churches, and soup kitchens will provide meals to the hungry. And you'll just have to look in your area to see where these local resources are and find out how you can help, whether it's with your time, with your money, or with your leftover foods. This is an infographic of all the places in Florida. It's divided up regionally. And you can see here, well, again, I'm in Tallahassee, so mine is the second hardest of the Big Bend. But Feeding America is spread out throughout the United States, and we have all these different entities that are responsible for collecting food and redistributing it to those that need it. So donating your food items is a great way to fight hunger and food insecurity. You can drop off non-perishable food items at your local food bank warehouse or attend one of their local food drives at various areas around the community. Keep in mind that food banks accept products that are past their due dates, their expiration dates or use by dates. Some items, of course, that you can donate are things that you think are expired, you're not willing to eat, but are minimally damaged. Maybe they're discontinued items or rejected for sale. But your food bank and food pantry can decide if it is salvageable and can redistribute it if it is. This is an example of a food bank timetable. I want you to notice, for example, the different items, and I have 2 pages of this. There's different items, when you can donate them and when you can consume by. So for instance, I want you to notice on the section under, under produce, it says shelf-stable canned fruits and vegetables, pickles, sauces, or pastas. If you're going through your pantry and you find something that is 6 months past the best by date, you could still donate this. All right, that item is actually good and can be consumed as long as there's no dents or damage to it. It's been stored properly. It's good for a year, past a year in some incidences. And so, you can look up some of this information. It's very easily accessible online, or I can provide this to you as well. This next slide also shows some other ones. Again, those shelf-stable canned items like canned soups and stews, they can be donated up to 6 months past their due date, and they're good for a year past that date at least. I've seen other charts where it's good for 3 to 5 years afterwards. But the key here too is to make sure that it's not dented, damaged, and that it's been stored properly. So in an air-conditioned space in your home, if it has been heat abused, if it's been left out, if it's been damaged in any way, it certainly does not fall into that category and may be a food safety risk. So some next steps to take. We've got a resource page at the end that I can provide to you. And I want everyone to think about, next making a plan to put some of these things into practice. Practice does not make perfect, of course, but be sure to sit down with your family and discuss the steps you can take to prevent food waste in your home. And after you've shared with your family, tell your friends. Sharing with others is the best way to create change. And creating small steps in your home and in areas within your local community can make a lasting impact on the environment, community members, and the economy. This is the resource page that I have been referring to. There are things here where you can access the cold food storage chart. That's the foodsafety.gov website. You can find a food bank near you by visiting feedingamerica.org. Also, there's some information here on composting. The Food Keeper app, as I mentioned, is a really great thing to just have on your phone. Second Harvest, again, we're with the Big Bend, but fightinghunger.org is their website. There are resources here for reducing food waste directly and going further with food. There's a mealtime app or website where we can find some mealtime, we misspelled mealtime, I apologize for that. Mealtime plans and recipes app. And then if you're not sure what you can and can't compost, this is a great resource here as well. And then the windowsill growing of foods, there's a website here for 19 foods that you can regrow, which again, I think is just incredible. So with that concludes the informational slides that I have to offer. And again, I thank everyone for attending this presentation. I think maybe we have some questions in the chat. And I wonder if Patricia will help us go through this.
Yeah, here, let me pull it up. Deborah mentioned curbside pickup is a good way to reduce impulse buy. Then Cynthia asked, did I hear you say that if meat has a coloration change, that it's still good?
Yeah, so actually the meat can still be good if it is gone some discoloration. So if it smells bad, if it is way past what you think is an acceptable date, like when you bought it, use your sense of sight, of smell. I know sometimes the outside of the meat, like for hamburger meat, for instance, might be slightly tinged brown, but if you break into it, it's completely fine in the middle. And that's just oxidation happening to the outside of the ground.
And how long should you store meat in the freezer?
Meat can be stored in the freezer, I believe, depending on what it is and how it's wrapped. And you can buy storage freezer bags that are much better at keeping out freezer burn, excuse me. Making sure that, it's hurricane season. If your freezer goes out at all, everything's compromised, you need to consider that. But under all the general rules, I would say you're good for at least a year, and it could be even longer. Your food is it's safe. It's not a food safety issue. It comes down more to a quality issue for that item.
Could I add to that? How about fish produce?
Fish as well. Yeah, same thing. Same thing with fish. Yep.
Someone mentioned that grocery stores don't refrigerate their apples, but should we?
Right. So apples can actually get really mealy and bring on a weird texture if they're refrigerated. If they are. So, okay. So this one I always struggled with. I know the grocery stores leave it out. Their environment is cool. They're not going to be out for long. I hope I'm getting this right. I believe that we store apples in the refrigerator. I store them in the refrigerator at home, and it keeps them longer. It keeps them nice and crisp. There are different varieties of apples. I know that Granny Smith's and some of the Honeycrisp do really well in the refrigerator. Mine last for a really long time, but then some of the other ones that are more for baking, they don't hold up as well.
So I think following up on that, somebody was asking if it's longevity or safety issue, but I think you answered.
Yeah, again, it is a quality issue, not food safety. If you're seeing, parasite, if you see worms in your apples, if you're seeing, spoilage, signs of spoilage, molding, rotting, those kinds of things, don't eat it. It is spoiled, okay? And that can become a food safety issue. But otherwise, if the texture's off a little bit and you're like, well, it's just really ripe, it's probably fine. It's just a quality issue.
I don't see any more questions, but I had a question of my own. I thought there was something that I read that if you pair certain fruits together, like store them together, it might either be good or bad, like onions with potatoes or something like that.
Yeah, that's correct. So onions and potatoes should be stored separately. It's a good idea to store them in like a brown paper bag separately away from the other ones. When you store them together, they actually speed up the ripening process of each one. And if the onions with the potatoes begin sprouting, which can be caused by sunlight, which is another reason why we want to keep them in a dark, cool place, but also away from each other. They begin sprouting at all. That is when the produce, the potato or the onion is starting to change inside itself, and it is becoming less and less safe to eat. So I would not eat any sprouting potatoes or onions.
Would the same apply for garlic? Like sometimes garlic starts sprouting.
Probably garlic. That is a mechanism that is part of the process of the actual whatever it is, the produce that is where it's continuing to ripen and it's changing, where it's becoming where it wants to be planted and not eaten, and so it can become toxic.
Okay, interesting. Let me see. I don't see any more questions coming through. Let me scroll to the top real quick just to see.
If you have any individual questions afterwards on any of this or require any additional information, please reach out to me directly. My email address is right here on this last slide. I'd love to hear from you.